Introduction: The Price of Being Invisible. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Subnarrator. Before we dive into today's story of quiet revenge and colossal betrayal, please take a second to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support is what allows us to keep bringing you these incredible, real-life dramas that prove truth is always stranger than fiction. Now, let's get into it. My name's Adrian. I'm 29 now, but this all started when I was 23. Back then, I was the kind of guy people politely described as still figuring things out. I wasn't exactly broke. I worked as a junior architect at a small, respected firm, but I wasn't driving fancy cars or posting vacation photos from exotic islands like my older brother, Lucas. Lucas was Mom's pride and joy. Everything he did was golden in her eyes, while everything I did was a nice start, but maybe you should aim higher. She had a way of saying it that sounded like loving advice, but landed like a deliberate, surgical cut. I grew up knowing she believed Lucas was destined for great things, to be the star, while I was destined to watch from the sidelines. When I met Claire, my fiancée, it felt like my luck had finally turned. She was warm, funny, and beautifully grounded. She didn't care that I didn't have the flashy life. She liked that I was passionate about architecture and wasn't obsessed with showing off. We were engaged after a year, planning a small, elegant wedding that reflected us perfectly. Mom was polite about the engagement, but I could feel her disapproval humming just below the surface. She made pointed comments like, "Are you sure you can provide for her?" Or, with a knowing sigh, "It's a big responsibility, Adrian. Women have needs." I brushed it off, thinking she was just being her usual tone-deaf self. The first rail crack, however, was sharp and undeniable. It happened at a family dinner. We were all seated around my parents' long mahogany table, Lucas across from me, Mom at the head like some kind of queen. Between bites of perfectly roasted chicken, she casually looked at Claire. "Claire, you'd look stunning in a place like Lucas's penthouse. You've been there, haven't you?" Claire smiled politely. "No, I haven't." Mom didn't miss a beat. "You should. The view of the city is incredible. I keep telling Lucas he should settle down. Someone like you could inspire him, too." I laughed it off, trying to diffuse the tension, but under the table, Claire's hand was rigid against mine. That night, she asked me directly if my mom didn't like her. I told her it wasn't personal. Mom just had a lifelong, toxic habit of comparing me to Lucas. What I didn't realize was that Mom wasn't just being rude. She was planting seeds. Act 1. The seed of betrayal. Over the next few months, subtle things started changing. Claire would mention she'd run into Lucas while running errands. He just happened to be in the same part of town. Or Mom would text Claire, inviting her over to help plan a surprise for me, which I found sweet until I realized those plans never materialized. When I asked Claire about the meetings, she'd become vague, saying it was just small talk. I desperately wanted to believe her. Then came the night I'll never forget. I'd worked late and swung by my parents' house to drop off some photos. As I walked up the driveway, I noticed Lucas's car parked out front. Inside, laughter spilled from the living room. Pure instinct, not suspicion, made me pause and peer through the side window. I froze. Mom, Lucas, and Claire were sitting together, deep in conversation, wine glasses in hand. Mom was leaning forward, her voice low, but clear enough for me to catch the chilling words. "Claire, you're a smart woman. Lucas can give you the life Adrian never could. He's already established. He can give you security, status, everything a woman deserves." Lucas smirked like this was all perfectly natural. Claire didn't look offended. She looked thoughtful. My heart hammered so loud I thought they might hear it. I didn't stick around to hear more. I backed away without knocking, drove home, and sat in the dark for hours, replaying Mom's sentence. Every instinct screamed to confront them right away. But a quieter, colder part of me told me to wait, to watch, to see just how deep this betrayal went. Over the next 2 weeks, Claire pulled away completely. She was too tired for date nights, too busy for wedding planning. The house was heavy with silence and tension. Then one evening, she sat me down at the kitchen table, her hands folded neatly in front of her like she was terminating a business relationship. "Adrian, I think we rushed into this," she began, deliberately avoiding my eyes. My chest tightened, but I felt strangely numb. She talked about needing stability, about how we weren't aligned for the future. They were Mom's words, her fingerprints all over them. But the final surgical blow came when she said, "Lucas understands what I need." I didn't ask if she meant emotionally or financially. I didn't need to. I just let her go. She packed her things within the week. There was no dramatic fight, no begging her to stay. But as she walked out my door, suitcase in hand, she gave me a look half guilty, half sickeningly triumphant. I knew Mom had gotten exactly what she wanted. The golden son had claimed the prize from the lesser son. The disappearance. I cut off all contact. No calls, no texts, no holiday visits. I left my job, moved to a different city, and built my life from the ground up with a kind of single-minded, desperate focus I'd never had before. I didn't tell them where I went. As far as they knew, I'd vanished. And in a way, I had. But the thing about disappearing is you get to choose when and how to come back. Act 2, the calculated ascent. At first, I told myself I'd moved on, but their shadows still reached me. I worked brutal, self-punishing hours, investing every bit of myself into launching my own design firm. We landed a few risky contracts that could have ended me if they failed. They didn't. Within 3 years, we were winning bids against firms that had once turned me away. I didn't post updates. I didn't send updates. I knew my family. If they didn't hear my name, they'd assume I'd stayed the second-place son, and that suited me just fine. My success was a private shield. I moved into a penthouse, not to show off, but because I could afford the privacy and the view. I invested in real estate and built side businesses. By my late 20s, I was walking into rooms and controlling the conversation. Then, the reminders started creeping back. Emails from old family friends checking in, slipping in comments about how Lucas and Claire are doing so well. They bought a huge house. Lucas's business was booming, and Mom, naturally, was proud as ever. She kept telling people Lucas had saved Claire from a life of uncertainty, actively rewriting my story into a cautionary tale. The anger stopped being a dull background noise and became something sharper, something useful. The real gut punch came at an industry networking event 2 years after I left. I spotted Lucas' tailored suit holding court. I overheard him. Yeah, my mom always knew I was the one who'd make something of himself. My brother? He meant well, but he didn't have the drive. Claire saw that, too. Claire just sipped her wine with the faintest, complicit smirk. It was such a clean, public dismissal of my entire existence that the anger crystallized into cold resolve. After that night, I started paying attention again, watching, listening. Rumors of missed deadlines and investors pulling out of Lucas's ventures started circulating. He was over-leveraging himself. Claire, I heard, wasn't exactly happy playing the perfect wife. I didn't make any moves yet. I was just laying the groundwork. The missing piece. My personal life, meanwhile, had soared far beyond theirs. I met and married Eliza. Eliza wasn't just stunning, intelligent, and utterly devoted. She was a powerful figure in her own right. She ran a highly respected venture capital firm that specialized in architect and design investments. We traveled the world, our life a constant reminder that my value required no one's approval but my own. Eliza was my sounding board, my confidant, and the architect of my quiet expansion. And crucially, she was someone Lucas and Claire knew. Not well, but certainly by reputation. Claire, in her relentless pursuit of status and networking, had spent years trying to get a meeting with Eliza's firm, hoping to land an investment partner that would validate Lucas's vision. Eliza had declined her multiple requests, politely but firmly. Claire revered Eliza's success. The more I built, the more I knew my eventual return wouldn't just be about proving them wrong. It would be about demonstrating that I had ascended to a league they desperately coveted but could never truly enter. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. An acquaintance suggested I co-chair a massive annual fundraising event, a power nexus where deals were made and trajectories were altered overnight. The invitation was a declaration of arrival. I made sure the guest list included just enough people from the old social circles to guarantee the news would reach my family. Not as an invitation, but as a headline. They thought they were circling me. I was building the trap. Act 3. The Gala and the Vanishing Smile. The night of the gala arrived crisp and clear. The venue, a restored Art Deco theater, glowed from within. I stood at the entrance with Eliza, greeting guests. This was my arena now. When the black sedan pulled up and my mother stepped out, her expression was poised but hungry, scanning the crowd for recognition. Lucas followed, wearing a suit that was almost perfect, a touch too eager. Claire emerged last, her arm hooked through his. She smiled, but it was thin. I watched them walk through those grand doors, their arms linked like a family portrait. And when they saw who I was, the host of the event, and who was standing beside me, their smiles vanished in an instant. The moment our eyes met across the ballroom, time froze. Mom's composure fractured. Lucas's grip on Claire's hand tightened. And Claire looked like she'd stepped into a nightmare she knew was still breathing. Eliza, beside me in an emerald green gown, tilted her head and offered a polite, cool smile. Claire's eyes widened just a fraction, recognition dawning. She wasn't just looking at my wife. She was looking at Eliza Vance, the VC mogul she'd been trying to impress for years. I could feel the tension building, but I didn't walk over. Not yet. I wanted them to stew in it, to feel the ground shift. 40 minutes into the gala, I noticed Lucas and Claire slip toward the private lounge, my mother following them. I moved quietly, weaving through the waiters. I found them in a side corridor, the door ajar. My mother's voice carried. "He's in over his head here. All this flash is just for show. Find out who's backing him. If we can get in on it, we can make sure he doesn't shut us out again." Lucas smug. "I doubt he's got the capital for this. Probably some investor propping him up. We figure out who." Then Claire's voice calm, measured. "Or I could just talk to him. He used to trust me. He's still a man, Lucas. You know how to use that." I stood there, absorbing each word. They weren't just crashing my event. They were actively plotting to undermine me, to take something they assumed I hadn't earned. And Claire, the woman who had promised to marry me, was casually offering to manipulate me like a mark. Then, the final, unfiltered truth spilled from my mother's mouth. He was always the weak one. He's lucky we even came tonight. This could be our way to finally fold him into something worthwhile. The last shred of lingering family loyalty snapped clean. They weren't here for me. They were here for what they thought they could take from me. I stepped back from the doorway. My decision was made. If they wanted a game, I'd give them one. But I would be holding all the cards. The verdict? I didn't confront them that night. I walked back into the ballroom, my face composed. I wanted them to stew. My real move came during the auction segment. I made sure their table was in earshot of several key investors from a major development Lucas was desperately chasing. When the host called for bids on an exclusive architectural consultation, an item I'd personally donated, Lucas raised his paddle. I smiled, taking the microphone. "That's generous, Lucas. Though I should mention the consultation is contingent on working with clients whose projects align with our brand standards." The words were polite, but in that crowd, they landed like a verdict. Everyone understood. Lucas could bid all he wanted, but without my approval, there was no deal. He lowered his paddle, face tight. I was the gatekeeper now. The final, public blow came during the toast when I invited my wife, Eliza Vance, on stage. As the lights caught the diamond on her hand, I watched Claire's eyes widen fully. Recognition, humiliation, and dread all hit her at once. She realized who she had walked out on years ago, and who she was now forced to professionally envy. Act 4. The closure. The immediate fallout was swift. 2 days later, my contact on the development board called. Lucas was rejected. I then ensured the news of his rejection, coupled with the whispers of his over-leveraging, traveled quickly through the right social channels. Investors became skittish. Within a month, 2 more of Lucas's backers pulled out. His company's presence dried up. The mansion was quietly listed for sale by winter. Claire didn't stick around. She resurfaced in another city, her name appearing occasionally in charity write-ups, but always without the same sheen. The story of her public humiliation and her husband's financial collapse became the whispered truth of the old social circle. As for my mother, she tried once to call. The voicemail was short, brittle. "I think we should talk. Family's important. I didn't return it. There was nothing left to say. Family is important, but not the kind that treats you like a pawn. The following year, I hosted the gala again, bigger and brighter. As I stood on stage, I scanned the room. They hadn't returned. I raised my glass. To progress, I said to the sea of faces, and to remembering that those who doubt you often end up proving you right. I was toasting 3 empty seats that no one had noticed were missing. And that was the last time I ever thought of them as anything but a closed chapter. And that's the end of Adrian's incredible story. From the invisible son to the host of the city's most prestigious event, his journey proves that sometimes the best revenge is simply building a life so magnificent that the people who doubted you can't even afford to watch. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever been underestimated, please let us know in the comments below. We love hearing your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Subnarrator for more shocking, true life tales. Until next time.